Hello everyone, this is FIDE Viktor Nestroev. So today our webinar is devoted to how to play solid chess. So it's a solid playing style. Please let me know whether the video and audio quality is good and we can continue. So people are joining. So we are about to start in 3 minutes. Well, those of you who attend this webinar for the first time, could you please let me know what your current ELO is? So, for example, your chess.com rating, or if you have, it's a FIDE rating or a USCF rating. And by the way, which country are you joining us from? Okay, so here, guys, you can unmute yourself and say something like my name is, and where are you from, what's your rating, so why do you play chess, and so on, if you want, especially those who join this webinar for the first time. So you can unmute your microphone.
Good morning, Victor. My name is Peter Prohaska. I'm a national master from the United States. I live in the Pacific Northwest, Portland.
Perfect. National master, so you are 2200, right?
Yeah, 2200, 2200 up to, well, right now, just about 2200.
Well, perfect.
I've been teaching, I'm a professional chess teacher. I've been teaching for 40 years now.
Oh, wow. So
I'm looking forward to this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been teaching for a less period because I'm only 39, so I've been teaching for maybe, well, totally maybe 11 years only.
Right.
Well,
so anyway, I'm looking forward to I think the topic here is very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for joining us. So guys, I ask you to keep muted, but once you want to say something, you can unmute and say. So Joe, I will mute your microphone, so let me know if you want to unmute. I just want to avoid any background noise. Okay, perfect. So we are going to talk about solid chess and how to play it. But before we start with a new topic, let's check your homework, guys. So last time our topic was about crucial decisions in critical positions. So, well, this is an example. This is the fragment from the game between Bent Larsen and Laszlo Jabo. So, well, there were a few suggestions, but if you have anything to suggest for white in this position, you're welcome. Yes, Paul. Yeah, I've got your message. So that's right. Okay. Okay. Yes, it's definitely Rook b5. So let's decide how it works. So first of all, taking with the knight is a disaster because the connection between the rook and queen is broken, and queen b2 simply can be captured a3. Well, here I don't want you to create any calculate any specific lines. Just make the queen move and capture the knight, capture the pawn after that. So it's completely winning. After rook b5, well, if they take with the rook, they blunder a back rank mate, of course. So this is what we don't need to analyze. But we need to analyze this move, which is quite dangerous. And that's why rook b5 may seem like a mistake. But after king h3, there are no checks that can be delivered to the king, while black still struggles with the back rank weakness, right? And with the knight hanging on c3. game. Well, for example, if they play this move, which at the same time covers the back rank and protects the knight, actually the rook becomes overloaded and we can simply capture on c3. Again, no reasonable checks, and white is a piece up and creates a threat of a back rank mate. Okay, so rook f8 was played in the game, and white just continued with queen c3 and successfully won the game in 6 moves. So that was the solution. Thank you for those who sent it to me by email. And the second is this. Well, okay, so those of you who didn't send an email with the answers, what do you think black should do in this position? So what can we see here? Our rook is under attack. It's attacked 3 times, so we either need to exchange it or move it to the safe place or initiate a counterplay based on the position of these pieces. Come on, guys, do you have any suggestions? What black should do? Okay, so one of the options is is probably try this. But then after knight takes, and then what? If pawn takes, it's simply king takes e3, or maybe, no, not the king, but the queen takes e3, for example. And after this move, queen takes there. So it doesn't look good. But instead, you can just sacrifice the queen. The king has no other squares but to take. And after knight e4, you simply gain the queen for free. So you sacrifice your queen for a knight, but gain the enemy queen for free. So now the king escapes. Please pay to go to the f2 square. This square is attacked by the knight. So the king has to go there. And after knight d2, the rook on e3 is still protected. So we are up a knight. Okay, fine. So let's start with our topic today. Well, today we are going to work on such games like, well, played by such famous grandmasters like Anatoly Karpov, Akiba Rubinstein, and of course Mikhail Botvinnik. There will be 2 more as a homework. Okay, so what you should know about solid chess style? Well, solid chess style means that you should play slowly, calmly, and you should mainly improve positionally. It's opposite to combinational playing style. For example, my playing style is mainly combinational. Sometimes I play solid chess too, especially if I play against someone who is younger than me but is considered to be strong enough. Well, of course, I like to attack. I see a lot of tactical vision, but the idea of doing solid chess is to just do not provide your opponent with a counterplay. So when you make a move which is solid, it's unlikely to be punished. So the move declares that your position is strong enough and your opponent doesn't have a counterplay, or maybe have a very small counterplay which if improves his position just very little. So, which typical ideas you should do when you play, when you want to play with solid chess? So, first of all, it's positional exchanges. When you look that your piece is worse than the enemy piece, you're trying to exchange. Um, or, for example, you see the enemy piece is defending a certain square, then it does make sense to exchange it in order to occupy this square. Uh, Also, we may fix pawn weaknesses. For example, okay, there is a weakness in the enemy position. Even if there is no, if this pawn can move, we can fix it and attack it later in the game. So I'm going to demonstrate all this stuff in these examples that I prepared for today. What else? Gaining space also is very solid and provides you with advantage, and it's really hard to to initiate a counterplay with no space. What else? Pressure on weak squares and weak pawns and weak squares. And also limiting your opponent's plans. This is another important thing. Even if you just not doing any actions in a slightly better position, it's fine. Because most likely your opponent makes a mistake and you'll get a chance to take advantage of it. So some amateurs and club players, when they don't know what to do, they try to open the position. This is definitely a mistake. If you see that opening the position doesn't provide you with advantage, just provides you with a more clear plan that you can initiate, it doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Instead, you can look for another plan. You can consolidate your pieces, prepare for something, or just consolidate and play some waiting moves, some prophylaxis, which can be helpful later in case if you open the position or in case if you stick to another plan. So even just slow maneuvering in the better position when the position is relatively closed is solid enough. Even repeating the maneuvers does make sense. Okay, so now let's start. However, it's not all I wanted to share with you. There is something else, but let's start with the analysis of this game. So Anatoly Karpov playing against Jan Timman. Actually, yes. So about newcomers, Elisha from the United States with chess.com rating 1442. Okay, welcome, Elisha. Let's start. E4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6. So this is known as Pyrrhic, right? Pyrrhic defense. And well, guys, those of you who play e4, how would you continue in this position? So suggest your move in the chat. Okay, so bishop g5. Yes, this move does make sense. What else? f4. Nice. Okay, so yes, these are really good moves. Sometimes I play f4, but mainly I play either bishop e3, bishop g5, which contains the same idea. So, for example, bishop g5, queen d2, and then you exchange on h6. Like this, then c6, and bishop h6. So this is the most common scenario. That happens. We're trying to exchange this bishop, weaken the king side, and then we castle to the queen side. Sometimes the knight goes there. There is a famous game by Garry Kasparov and Vasilin Topalov, which I think is the most beautiful game of all ages. On my YouTube channel, there is actually the analysis of this game, so I can share the link with you later. Okay, so Peter suggests G3 instead. Well, so Peter, looks like you're a solid player. Yeah, G3. This is a very solid strategic plan because you are going to fianchetto, your king will be safe, and the position will be closed and there are a lot of opportunities for maneuvering. Also, you protect the pawn on e4. So bishop g7, bishop g2. This is what happened in the game. This is what Karpov also chose. So knight g2, e5, castle, knight a6, rook a1, c6. Now, what else can we do? So which solid moves you can suggest in this position? A lot of club players would just capture. Why? Well, probably to exchange the queens, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't improve your position. So what would you play here? Okay, so there is one suggestion, b3 to fianchetto the bishop. Okay, that makes sense. What else? Bishop g5 to pin the knight. Well, it's definitely about this bishop development. Okay, so again, Peter is correct. It's h3 and bishop e3, trying to secure the position of the bishop and also bring the piece to the game. So rook e8, then he decided to change his mind and played bishop g5 first to provoke h6, and then played bishop e3 back. So of course, he could play bishop e3 right away, but with bishop g5, h6, and bishop e3, when he does queen d2, he gains a temper. So queen c7, queen d2, and black has to defend this pawn with king h7. So rook ad1. Now, well, white pieces are consolidated in the center. Bishop d7. Again, so this is a kind of a critical position where a lot of plans can be initiated. Which plan would you choose? Okay, so those of you who are interested in Kasparov and Topalov game, the link is here. Yeah. Okay, so people are joining, or John is joining us. So let's decide about the plan. So you can come up with a plan which opens the position, which, for example, creates threats to your opponent, or instead you can play solid chess. Okay, so John has very nice ideas, like a3 to restrict this knight. Yes, this does make sense, but actually the knight not go into b4. The idea for the knight is to go to c5 and d6 and such positions. Here, for example, some may consider playing d5. Why? Well, because it makes d6 a weakness. We are threatening to gain a pawn, right? For example, c takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5. The pawn on c2 is not hanging because then queen b7, which is multiple attack. But knight b4 can be played. However, queen d6, now because the queen is attacking two pieces, the queens should be exchanged. And this move in this position is a mistake. So this, then this, and they two are hanging. And if knight e3, it's this. And after knight g2, I think, well, we can just take and then capture one of these two pawns. So it's favorable for white. That's why bishop e6, saving the bishop. And it seems that white is a pawn up, right? Well, how to play? If you play c3, I think it's knight c2 and then bishop a2. So for example, this, then rook moves, then it's this, and this. And black is fine. So what do you think? It seems that you need to protect on d2. And now if they play rook to d8, how would you continue? Well, yeah, you have to play rook ed1. Well, this move doesn't work because the rook is simply hanging, but they can exchange and then take here. Why? Because after c3, in the previous situation, for example, if they took here right away, c3, the knight is trapped, it cannot escape. But in case if the rooks are exchanged, the knight can escape to b3. You see? So it's not a big issue. Okay, fine. So d5 seems like a logical plan, but actually leads to an open position where black has counter chances. Doing e4 is playable. I agree, but maybe too early for such a game. Well, Karpov plays g4. He wants he wants to improve his pieces. So this move, this bishop c8, and then he does f4. So first he improves his pieces and prepares for opening the position in case if black decides to open it by taking here and there. But both of these moves are unfavorable because what then? So e5 is coming, the queen is not well placed, g5 is coming too, so the position doesn't look good. It's better to keep the pawn on e5 because I doubt that f5 and the king side attack can be initiated. So black plays b5, trying to chase the knight. Well, then a3, but b4 anyway, and the knight goes to b4. So look again at this position, a3, and black has no moves. They have to look for a counterplay. They want to win or at least not to lose, and that's why they played b4, which seems like a move that opens the position on the queen side and potentially provides white with chances. I mean, provides black with chances to attack through the b file, or maybe just to activate the knight. Anyway, so what would you play here? Again, so I'm asking you to play a solid move. Of course, there are a lot of moves which are approximately equal according to Stockfish. For example, you can just push one of these pawns, right? You can take on the e5 with this. It's still fine. But imagine that you are Karpov and you want to play solidly. So what would you play? So I posted the link to Kasparov Topalov game. So, but this game is sharp, so it's not related to the topic of our webinar today. Okay, so knight c2, that's right. So this move allows us to consolidate pieces as well as gain the tempo on this knight. So now they should decide whether they protect it with the queen, which looks very unpleasant, or what? Well, maybe queen b8, then c3 at least can be played. And with c3, we reinforce the center, while the pawn on e4 is protected twice, which is really good. So even after this exchange, the pawn is still protected. So knight c2. Well, and this is where Timman realized that yes, he should capture, because such a move like this means c3, knight goes there, and let's say rook f1, and white can focus on the king side play because their position is very, very solid on the queen side, and there is no counterplay for black. So e takes d4, knight takes d4, and a5. Now c3. The knight has to go to the edge of the board, but maybe later it goes to c5. Now what? So it's time to remaneuver the knight. But if we move the knight to f3, then e4 is hanging. So queen c2. Bishop d7. Knight goes to f3. Maybe not the best move. Maybe there were better continuations. Maybe g5 immediately was a better move. But no rush. Black doesn't have a counterplay. And by doing such a move like knight f3, we only provoke black to make a mistake. Well, so rook e7. Now let's protect it with the rook. So e4 is safe. Also, in case of d5, we can simply take because our rook won't be hanging on e1. So bishop f2 is a very good prophylaxis. Well, actually, I think we will react with e5. Okay, anyway, bishop e8. They're trying to improve their pieces as well as protect d6. Queen d3. Queen goes to b7 to attack here, so this is protected. With the bishop on d7, you could be threatening here with your queen. Now what? Well, b2 right now is not hanging because of queen a6. It's obvious. If they decide to play with a tempo to c5, we simply take, and there is a rook hanging on d8. The d pawn is pinned. That's why, what would you suggest? g5? So what comes to your mind? Let's take advantage of a better position. Well, of the fact that white is better. White pieces are consolidated. White doesn't have weaknesses. Okay, g5 doing a kingside attack is a very good idea. I agree with you. So maybe I would play 2 g5, knight g8. Then maybe you can do this. So it's a very strong plan. And but this plan is at the same time risky, because if you don't succeed with the attack, then maybe your opponent gets a counterplay. Well, maybe this is what I would play actually, because for me it seems that the attack is strong, and um, I I see there is a long-term initiative, and my opponent is likely to make a mistake, and most likely cannot withstand against such a. So bishop f1, a tempo gaining move. Well, yes, probably. Well, the knight has to go there then. Okay, fine. But how to win with no risk? Karpov knows the answer. He plays rook a1, which is not the best because g5 is more promising. But with this move, he doesn't take any risk, but takes this pawn. How to protect it? So the queen goes there, it hangs the knight on the edge. What else? So he just simply gains this pawn. And then the position is technically winning. So knight c7, rook a5. What happens in case of queen b2? Who can tell me? So I'm waiting for your suggestion, guys. Okay, yeah, rook b1, thank you. Yeah, rook b1, the queen is trapped. So that's why b2 is not vulnerable, and they have to prepare for taking there, but it's still not hanging. So b4 now. Before knight goes to e6, black tries to improve the position. This is vulnerable. That's why bishop here. e4 is not vulnerable. We just need to move the knight away to make sure that our queen can go to the queen side. But c5, so they are adding pressure on e4 as well as offering an exchange, which is unfavorable for us. Now, what would you play? Well, this is actually a critical position. So I want you to take a decision which may affect the evaluation of the position and the future actions that gonna take place on the board. Okay, queen b5 to exchange the queens. Okay, so seems interesting. Yeah, maybe queen b5 works. So yeah, let's see. So queen b5, rook b5, knight c7. The rook moves, and then maybe I can capture here. What do you think? No, I cannot. It's definitely blunder. So what I'm talking about. e4 is protected. Yeah, queen b5 looks good. Probably c takes there. C takes there. But maybe something like that can be a problem because b4 is vulnerable. So rook takes rook. I take here. White has to defend. Maybe knight c5 move. Well, yeah, not sure. Maybe not queen b5 because it looks a bit suspicious. Okay, fine. So here you may consider playing b5. b5, but b5 is actually blunder. So it's a solid move by the first glance, but provides your opponent with a counterplay. c4, queen takes c4. And what was the point of this sacrifice? Who can tell me? Okay, knight c5 or d5 pawn break. No, it's not about this. Well, knight c5 looks fine, but bishop c5 can be played. Pawn takes, then e5, chasing the knight away. Well, maybe not e5. Okay, well, actually, I don't understand the point of doing this move. So queen takes. If you want to take on e4, you'll hang your pieces because it's knight g5 at the very end. No, knight c5 doesn't work. Okay. d5. No, it's not d5, guys. It's knight f4. So you should play solid chess, but you also should calculate lines. So here, the idea is if the bishop takes in queen b6, which is a fork. So that's why the bishop cannot take. So probably rook a7, but then they play knight g2. Rook b7 taking the queen, but knight takes e1. Then what? If this move, it's knight f3. King f2, knight takes d7, and we cannot take, right? So that, well, for example, b6, knight d5, and looks like black has a counterplay. They have a rook and two pieces to compensate the queen and one pawn. So 91 was played. 91 can be played, of course. No, it didn't happen in the game, of course. Then rook takes b7, then b6, and well, two rooks versus queen. So it seems to be okay for black. That's why not b5. Well, but f5. Now there is no pawn hanging, and we attack the knight. And because the diagonal is closed, there is no point of delivering any checks or moving the queen to b6 just. Knight d8, and now b5. So, well, black doesn't know what to play, so they play king h8. Bishop f2, queen c7, rook goes back to the safe square and also protects e4, so this is another prophylaxis. Queen b8, c4, this is a protected pass pawn, and the game is actually technically winning. Rook a7, rook takes a rook. And what then? Now white needs to get these pieces into the game. How is it possible? No, guys, this time it's obvious. So we have, well, Paul suggests g5. So g5 is, well, it's definitely a good move, I agree. But there is a better move than g5. So this time we have already winning position. There is no need to initiate the attack and obligatory checkmate. You can win with no risk if you convert your extra pawn. This is a protected path pawn, which means that in the end game, some of the enemy pieces will be tied down to this pawn. So what you need is just get your pieces back. So e5, it not only undermines this, but threatens to take this. D takes a5, knight takes a5. This is under attack, so it's hard to find how to defend it. G6 is under attack too, so they wanted to initiate some counterplay, but after this move, they simply resign. Could they try to defend? Well, maybe this is a move, but then f takes g6 at least. F takes, knight takes. So e5. Well, okay, so let's sum it up. What did happen in the game? White had a lot of promising but sharp continuations. However, instead, they consolidated their pieces, waiting for black to make mistakes. For example, having the pawn isolated on a5 was definitely a strategic mistake. And then white capitalized on it. Also, white avoided some promising lines like g5 because they thought that g5 may contain some risk to their king, or for the center to be open, which may provide black to have some counterplay by activating their pieces. So what they did is just took advantage of this weakness, gained this pawn, created a passed pawn, avoided a counterplay, which was possible because of this tactical motive, a fork, and knight f4. So they just pushed f5, avoided it, and created a protected pass pawn, and simply realized this extra pawn, opening the position at the very end. Okay, fine, let's continue. The second example is the game played between Samuel Factor and Akiba Rubinstein. Okay, so this time a grandmaster with a solid playing style was playing with black pieces. It was Akiba Rubinstein. What else you should remember about solid style and when to implement it? So such a style may help you when your position is worse. For example, you have weaknesses and you have to passively defend them. Then it does make sense to play solidly to prevent a counterplay. Well, I'm always trying to look for a counterplay, but you should understand that a counterplay based on tactical ideas, if there is no tactical motives or some drawbacks in the enemy position, is unlikely to appear. I mean, usually tactics appears when the position is sharp enough and you makes a mistake or creates a tactical motive that you can recognize in his position. So it's a certain drawback that you can tactically take advantage of. But if your position is worse and your opponent plays solidly, there can be no tactics and no way to overtake the initiative by tactical means. That means that you have to play solidly, defend your weaknesses, and move by move, trying to improve your pieces. And only once you are able to equalize, look for tactics and look for how to play for win. Okay, so also I should admit that one of the most important elements of solid style is long-term maneuvering with pressure, with the idea to either wait or provoke your opponent to make a mistake. And I also wanted to tell you about which openings you should play if you want to play solidly. Well, definitely Queen's Gambit for both colors, for white and for black. It's a very solid opening. Uh, but, well, maybe London system too, actually. However, it depends on what your opponent plays against London. So, for example, I like when people play London against me. I know exactly how to play. I have a course on Chessable on it. Uh, so I think that I can get a better position. There is not much tactics. That's why I actually prefer playing open Sicilians with both colors, with a lot of tactics. But so London doesn't provide white with advantage. The good thing about London is that you don't really need to learn a lot of lines. You just know a certain setup and you can play it, and most likely your position isn't worse if you don't make serious mistakes. Also, Caracan defense, and especially the advanced variation where white plays e5. Okay, fine. So in this position, it was e4, e5, and Rui Lopez. But then white decided to play bishop takes c6, which is the exchange variation of Rui Lopez, d takes. Well, I'm sure you guys know that this pawn is not hanging because of this move. For example, knight retreats, queen a4, queen e2. And in this position, black takes advantage of their bishop pair. So this is not a pawn blunder. I'm sure you know about that. D4, white played D4. It's not the only move, but definitely possible way. Here, white wanted to transpose the game to the endgame. But again, black has a bishop pair. However, the pawn on e4 is alive. Bishop d6, f4, f6. Solid move, which stops e5. Bishop e3, knight e7, knight d2, knight goes to g6 to create a threat, but g3, a solid move. Now c5, knight goes back. So b6. Why b6 actually? Can you tell me why b6? Why not bishop d7? Why not bishop e6 is not possible? Bishop g4, for example. Or maybe just king f7 or castle. Yeah, b6 is played with the idea of bishop b7. But why bishop e7? Because this is a potential weakness. So rook f1, castle queen side. Such a move protects some potential weaknesses on the queen side, as well as brings the king's the black king closer to the center, and allows the rook to join the open file right away. Bishop f2, rook he8. So this pawn cannot be pushed, which means that white has to defend it passively. So rook e2, rook d7, rook a1, rook d7, and what then? So here white doesn't know how to continue. King g2 is likely to be a mistake due to complications on this diagonal, if not immediately then later, so they play h4. So according to the engine, the best strategy here was just to play king f1 and wait. h4 with the idea of h5, but black plays h5 himself. c4, a5. a5 just doesn't make much sense, so it's not the best move, but maybe the bishop can be active. So a4. Now again, king d7, not the best move. But black doesn't know how to win, and this is what you guys may often face you may face with such a situation where you have a certain setup with your pieces, the position seems to be okay, but you don't understand what you should be doing. And that's why many of you may consider something like that. But it doesn't actually change anything. He just plays b3, and the maximum that you can achieve, open b file. That's it. So just doing exchanges when you don't know what to do is not a good strategy at all. Okay, so here, probably improving the knight and moving it to g4 seems like a good idea, but you always have to be aware of e5. So for example, if you, let's say, decide to play this move, can they play e5? Isn't the bishop trapped because we don't have enough attackers? What do you think? So what do you think about this move? Does e5 win a piece or what? But there is a pin on the e file. That's right, on e2, right? So white doesn't win with this move. This move can be played. And now white doesn't understand which piece they can bring to defend. So knight h8 actually worked. So they can try, well, knight e4, they just lose here. Maybe they can try e6, right? But, well, if you play this, he plays this. So knight goes there. And then later you can attack it. Maybe you bring the bishop to attack. Maybe something like that, some preparation, and you're gonna take this pawn later. Now e6 is very weak. Exactly. So that's why doing knight h8, knight f7, knight h6, knight g4 was the best plan. But well, black didn't find it, and instead black wanted to play solidly to not blunder anything. So here Paul suggested taking on e4 with the bishop. So why do you think it deserves our attention? So this, then what? So they definitely don't want to lose the exchange, so they play this move. Why you think it's promising? Because I don't see anything. This check, but what's the purpose? King g2. No, it's not promising. So, no, it was suggested by John, so my mistake. Okay, so, okay, fine. So bishop f4, g takes f4, knight takes f4, rook a3, g5 opens the king side. Well, yes, it does, but how do you take advantage of this king side? Moreover, they are not forced to take. What if, for example, they play this move? No, it's definitely not. So you make a very typical mistake. You don't know what to play, and you are looking for some moves that can simplify the position. But this strategy doesn't work, doesn't look good, because by opening the position, you provide your opponent with a counterplay too. Instead, you can just make a useless move like Akiba Rubinstein did, and then think about what you should do. If your opponent plays for a win, he may make a mistake after that. But even if not, even if he doesn't make a mistake or doesn't play for a win, he just plays a waiting move, maybe after king d7 and after some other maneuvering, you will be able to come up with a better plan, and you would find knight h8, knight f7. Okay, king f1, bishop c6. So this pawn is hanging, so b3 is a must. King goes back. So you see, these are actually useless moves. Bishop c6 makes sense to provoke b3, but bringing the king here and back is completely useless. Bishop goes here, king g2. So now c6, bishop c7. So these moves didn't make much sense, but potentially it allows you to open the d file. However, then white got the control over this open file. So maybe I think that this was played in order to prevent e5. So he finally realized that there is a plan with knight h8, knight f7. But with the pawn on c7, and the bishop on d6, e5 would be a problem, because this time the rook on e3 is already protected. So bishop c7, knight c3. Well, both knights do not go anywhere. It seems that white improved the position of the knights, but again, they both are restricted. So limiting white options was also one of the purposes of playing c6. Now knight h8, rook d3. Well, let's discuss if e5 makes any sense in this position. What do you think? For example, take, well, if they take with the pawn, we can continue with knight g6, right? If they take with this, we can take here. And it still seems to be a mistake, right? Because rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, then knight g6, and they lose this pawn. Maybe black doesn't win the game because they cannot actually convert this pawn majority, but definitely black is playing for win. So rook d3, knight f7, the knight goes to g4, this bishop g4, creating a pin. Rook here, knight h6, bishop here. So white also is playing waiting moves. Waiting move by black, bishop f2. Bishop goes to e6, vacating the square for the knight. Rook d1, bishop f7. Bishop g1 again, so bishop g6, pressuring here. Knight goes to d2, so the pawn is protected enough. Then knight f7, rook e1, bishop h7. It seems that black is going to play this move, but no. This is not the plan here, at least not now. First, we need to improve the knight's position, because just doing g5 move, okay, so let's say king f3 and just doing g5 here, well, doesn't look good. So, for example, what they can do, bishop h2, let's say, and this is protected. So the purpose is to bring the knight to g4. So finally, the knight goes to g4. So you see, black played so many useless moves, and the position didn't change seriously. These waiting moves are played because of two reasons. First, Black didn't fully understand what he wants to achieve. He didn't know, and by doing these moves, he was trying to search for a better plan. Second, Black thought that with maybe these moves will provoke White to initiate some counterplay, maybe some tactical ideas that here are likely to be more favorable for Black. So we play solid and waiting moves because of two reasons. We are looking for a plan, and we want our opponent to get provoked for a mistake. So bishop g1, and now g5 is played. And this is not a blunder. Why it's not a blunder? So h takes g5, f takes g5, and if they take here, they blunder a fork. But maybe they don't need to take, maybe they can play this move. However, then how would you continue in this position? So yes, it's g takes f4 with f4 being the target. For example, after this move, not only f4 is a target, but knight e5 is a threat. And they lose the material. So for example, which move? King g3 maybe. After king g3, I think we can play rook g8, right? So rook g8, and there is a discovered attack because if the king goes, well, we are threatening with this move now, which is discovered attack. Because if the king goes there, then, or maybe there, then we can capture the pawn on f4. Okay, fine. So let's go back. Well, g5, so they play rook e2, another waiting move, g takes f4, g takes f4, and now black has a plan of how to win. Rook g8, with the idea of entering the enemy camp. There is a discovered attack on this bishop. So white tries to protect it with rook e1, maybe not the best move, maybe it was better to play this, but anyway. Doubling the rooks. Well, so there was a better idea. This move, I think, is possible. Bishop e5, threatening to take here and then add more pressure on e4. For example, this. So they cannot take. You see, if that happens, the rook is hanging. So king e2, rook g2. And well, or bishop f2 doesn't work because knight d3, king d3, rook takes, or actually rook takes first. And the key idea here is that even if they attack our rook, we take this, they take our, and we take another rook on e1. So we are up the exchange. Rook eg7 was played. This move is also good. Knight e2. Now what would you play? So look, these pieces are a bit passive. Black has the control over the G file. And what should we do? So by doing this slowly maneuvering, we were able to open the G file and have, and now we have a clear play of how to convert this advantage into a winning position. Okay, guys, waiting for your suggestions because this is a critical moment where, of course, if you just play knight h6 back and then knight g4 again, you are still in the better position. But I want you to find a move which is crucial, which defines, which underlines that black is better here, mainly because of their pieces activity. Okay, so okay, so Paul suggests to sacrifice the knight. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting. So f takes e5. What was the purpose? Probably bishop takes. Then the idea is to play rook g3, but rook g3 is another sacrifice. So I actually don't see the point. Maybe bishop f2 can be played. Okay, no, looks suspicious. What else? Okay, let me help you. It's f5. Why f5? Well, by the first glance, well, we actually want to open the bishop. Together with the other bishop, we are definitely dominating here. But this move can be a problem. Well, this move could be a problem if not this tactical strike. How does it work? So f takes e5, knight takes e5. Now, well, the king has to move there, otherwise we take the rook for free. Well, actually even two rooks, right? So king goes there, but then there is a check. Not a check on g3 because I don't want to sacrifice the exchange, but the one on f4. Now if king takes, it's again a fork. So what? There is only one move, knight takes there, and then there is a check. And now they cannot block, it's a blunder. They have to move the king away, and doesn't really matter where. For example, f2 or e2, it's knight d3 in both cases because you protect d3 with your bishop too. So knight takes, bishop takes, and you gain the pawn. Oh wait, you gain the exchange. This is a completely winning position. Okay, fine. So f5. In the game, it was e takes f5, which is a mistake. Well, but it's hard to say that this is a mistake because e5 was even more a mistake. What else should be done in this position? No, nothing. So because knight g3 is even a more serious mistake. So for example, then you can play knight e5 and take here. So, and I don't know what else to suggest. The engine actually here says that e5 is the best, and let's play this position after bishop e5. But it's completely losing, and both players understood it. So e takes f5, bishop f5, knight goes to e4. Well, then what? Now, well, the simplest way is just to exchange everything and then attack the weaknesses. So we can do this to create a pin, but I'm not sure if it's promising. Or we can just play this move. It was better, it was slightly better in this position to take on f4 right away. How does it work? Well, the knight is pinned, so the king can only take. And if that happened, then it's rook f8. Moving the king to the g file means that it falls under a discovered attack and the rook is lost. So the king should move to the e file, but then it's a checkmate. So king g3 actually is the best move, but then knight e5, and black wins the exchange and the game. So, but rook f7 is still good. Rook dd1, rook goes there. So now there is no possibility to protect this pawn, so they lose it. Rook f1 and bishop f4. Again, so there were better tactical opportunities, but this move is a solid move. White has no, well, maybe it's not the best continuation according to the engine, but White definitely has no ideas of what to do to play for a win. Rook f1, rook f1, rook f1, king f1. And this is a winning position. How would you proceed here? King d7. Well, I'm sure it's not the only on king d7, king e2 maybe, because you see, because of inability to convert this pawn majority on the queen side, you may not win the game. Some immediate actions are required. So king d7 can be too slow for this position. Okay, so knight h6, bringing the knight to f5 to attack this, right? So for example, what? King a2, the king comes closer to the center, but knight f5, another pawn is hanging. They must defend it because with two pawns, black is completely winning. Then knight d4, and if they take, it's a protected passed pawn. So you can definitely convert this pawn majority in the pawn game because this is a protected passed pawn. Well, it will be a protected passed pawn. If the pawn was here, it would be still a draw. King d3, and now knight b3, and that's it. So, well, actually, no, the game continued. It was this move, king d7, king c3, and knight goes there. So the pawn in game is completely winning. Actually, white took. But if they don't take, then the king just comes closer, and then this is a weakness. So, and b5 can be played too. So they decided to take, but so here with 3 versus 2, it's possible to create a protected, it's possible to create an outside pass pawn. So king d3, king e5, uh, king e3, and after c5, it's a Zugzwang. So the king goes there, then we enter his camp, or if he goes there, I think we should still enter his camp, but not like that, because it may be too late. So we can play this move. If he goes there, then we capture this pawn. And he has to capture 2 pawns. So it's a very long plan. We promote much faster. Or in case if king goes there, we can just shoulder him. Like that. And take the h pawn anyway. And after we take the h, we drop it. And let him take it. But we come to the other side of the board. Capture these two and promote one of our pawns. Okay, fine. Well, the game was actually over here after c5. Fine, but what you can learn from this game? Well, even if your position is just very slightly better, it's fine to maneuver and look for a better plan by doing this maneuvering. Do not define the position if you are not sure that you have better chances to win there. So do not open the position where if it's not required. Keep maneuvering even if you think it doesn't make any sense. For example, here, these bishop's moves were not so favorable. The idea of doing c6 was good because it stops the knight when it comes to c3, but other maneuvers didn't make sense, and actually that was a better plan, that black could come up earlier, but they didn't. However, after making some moves with the bishops, the king, they were able to find this idea and finally initiated it. But I think that actually maybe black saw that he just wanted to avoid complications after e5 because he couldn't maybe calculate the line properly, or anyway. Okay, fine. So we continue. Now the second stage of their webinar comes. So first of all, before we proceed to the second stage, so I want to show you that if you want to support my webinars, there is a link that you can use to donate. It's easy. You just click this button, donate, then you enter the amount you want to donate, and then it transfers you to PayPal. So you click here, then enter your login, enter your PayPal details, enter your PayPal account, So, and send a direct payment to my PayPal account. Okay, fine. So I'll copy this link to you here in the chat. So this donation helps me a lot, especially to plan my webinars. And yeah, well, uh, I am actually paying some money to my assistant who provides me, well, he is searching for the game. So for example, for this webinar, he sent me about 10 games and I had to choose 5 of them. So some games I remember myself, but very often I ask his help and well, of course, he doesn't want to work for free. He is a FIDE master too, actually, but he doesn't speak English, unfortunately. Okay, fine. So now let's continue with the second part. We are going to do some analysis first. This is a Botvinnik versus Sorokin game. And from a certain moment, I will play against you. So, so Botvinnik chose a solid opening, d4, d5, and it was Queen's Gambit. Knight c3, knight bd7, so just an ordinary Queen's Gambit, bishop d3, and c6. Well, this is probably the most solid way to play Queen's Gambit with black pieces. I played myself, but usually the bishop is on c1 in such a position. When the bishop comes to g5, I try to get rid of the bishop by doing h6, but this is very solid. Castle, a6. What is the idea of a6? Do you understand? Well, to take on c4 and then play b5 and then c5 and activate the bishop, or play b5 right away. This is possible too. But actually, usually d takes c4. So, for example, if we play rook c1, which many Queen's Gambit players play as a template move, then it's this, b5, bishop retreats, and then it's either this or this right away, and then bishop b7. And then black is fine. So a4. a4 is solid enough. It stops b5. D takes c4. Bishop takes c4. And now b5. It is just a blunder because of the pin here. So c5. Well, what to play? Here, Botvinnik decided to not play this position with an isolated pawn because it's knight b6, knight d5 coming. So he decided to take. It's not the best decision, actually. The best way was to continue with e4 and here capture with the queen, threatening with e5. But he also played the solid move. Bishop takes, well, taking with the knight was possible, but then queen c2, stopping the knights coming to e4. If bishop takes, it's queen e2, right? So h6. Bishop goes to h4, bishop e7, rook fd1. So, and black is in a tough situation. Which move would you recommend for black in this position, actually? Because what they can do? Well, this bishop is bad. They cannot move their knight. They can move the queen, but then you play this move or just this move, and the queen becomes the object of the attack. So white has more space. So black should somehow vacate or open some space for his pieces. Well, b6, bishop d7 seems definitely logical. But then it can be knight e5 or knight d4, I mean. For example, knight d4, and if you play bishop b7, then this is a problem. because you can just simply initiate this tactical strike. Well, if knight takes, it's a discovered attack. If bishop takes, it's still a discovered attack, because after pawn takes, the knight is not protected enough. So white gains a piece back and becomes 2 pawns up. So that's why b6 is a little risky. Well, black played knight h5 because this move provokes an exchange of the bishops. Bishop e7, queen e7. Rook d2, knight goes to b6. Well, so should we move the bishop? Well, I think that the majority of chess players would play with the bishop. However, here, white continued with rook a d1 because this move is completely fine. So it's queen c4, and this bishop is bad. So for example, let's say b6, it's still knight e5, and after this move, it's rook d7. Yeah, let me continue the line. Rook d7, queen g5, and rook b7, queen e5. Rook takes b6. Yeah, it seems to be enough. Just extra pawn. Fine. So queen c5. Now the bishop has to retreat because it's under attack. No, and of course we don't play this to not hang this knight on c3. So just bishop goes back. Knight f6. e4, e5. So the position becomes symmetrical. What would you suggest for white to play? So looks like white should play solidly. And white is definitely better. Why white is better? So first of all, e5 is more a weakness than e4. This knight's position doesn't look good because where does it go? But at the same time, we cannot neither capture the pawn nor play a5, at least right now. So, well, try to think and suggest what, in your opinion, may improve your position from a positional point of view. The move that Botvinnik played here was really good. It was a really great strategic idea. Maybe I would come up to this move myself, but I'm not sure, because I could consider this move to provide me with more drawbacks rather than benefits. So, guys, again, this is a critical moment. Of course, you can still play solidly, but I want you to find it. Knight e1 heading for d5. What do you mean? This, and this. Okay, knight d5 to create a pass pawn. So probably this is what I would play. Knight d5 to create a pass pawn. Another idea to play rook c2 and consider some discovered attack on the queen. So this is my playing style. Knight d5, rook c2. This seems to be very slow. It takes 3 tempi. Okay, so the move that was played in the game was queen e3. And now I want you to think. So why, without queens, this position is almost winning for white? Actually, good point about knight e1. It meets bishop g4 because we cannot play f3. So then we have to retreat. So queen e3, look, without queens, the position is really perfect. Why? Well, mainly because of this knight. It's always a5 coming. Second, it's because of this pawn, which is the object of the attack. So it looks like black can hold their position due to their queen on c5. And if we get rid of the queen, they're technically lost. So queen e3, oh, well, what they can do, they have to take. If they play something else, let's say this move, then just knight e5 works, right? Because queen takes, and taking on e4 is likely to be a mistake, right? Well, let me check. So let's check together, I mean. Queen takes, knight takes e4. So which move to play, rook e1 or rook e2? Ah, okay, queen e3, actually. Why? Because if we play either rook e1 or rook e2, let's say rook e1, they play this and they attack our queen, and then they move the knight to the safe place. But if we do a queen move, we still create a pin, and they cannot push like that. And on the next move, we can do rook e2 or rook e1 and f3, then that would be fine. So for example, bishop f5, rook e1, rook e8, rook d4, and none of their pieces can help. So rook here, then we can, for example, exchange once and capture here. And we can protect. They cannot, we can. So, oops, looks like it was a mistake. Okay, yeah, that was a mistake because it's a back rank weakness. So that's why f3 here, right? We have an escape square, and on the next move we take this knight. So queen c5 or queen d4 doesn't work. We do not exchange the queens, but take the knight. Okay, fine. So queen c7 doesn't work. That's why there is no other move to protect both pieces. While queen e5 is very suspicious, I think we can still do the same story with knight e5. So they have to exchange, but that makes our pawn structure terrible. And knight g4. Knight g4 can target our pawn. Well, what do you think here Botvinnik prepared for a knight g4 move? Rook d6, yes. So here Liliana is correct. It's rook d6, and the knight, yeah, the knight is trapped. Also, it can be a5, I think, right? Both moves. Rook d6, so knight a3, rook takes b6, knight takes d1, knight takes d1, and this is a winning position. Two knights for rook and the pawn, but they have two weaknesses. Two objects of the attack. Oh, maybe even three. Okay, so bishop g4 was played. Why? To secure the position, to vacate the square for the knight. So a5, knight goes to c8. Now rook c1 in order to unpin. Now it's hanging, so they have to exchange. They are trying to improve, and knight d5. So what's the purpose of this move? So first of all, if there is an exchange, well, this is what happened in the game. But if they want to exchange, let's say this, then this is hanging. So if they take, we take, then we can play e4 and we get a protected pass pawn. So it's basically like a pawn up. White is a pawn up. Well, they should have the pawn on g2, but instead they have the pawn on d5, which provides white with chances to promote, and because of that, black pieces has to stay passively, which allows white to enter the enemy camp. So the absence of the g2 pawn here, white just doesn't feel this absent. Okay, so that was the idea of knight d5. In the game, this continues with the game continues with knight c6. Of course, white took on f6, And this is what I want you to play. So you know the first move is knight takes f6. Your task is to think about the second move. This is the position we're gonna play, and please think. I'll send a picture of this position. So you are white, think about your plans. And while you're thinking about the plan, I go to chess.com. Let me share the screen again. So I go to chess.com and I would like to play the games against you with black pieces here. So your task will be to defeat me. So custom, then no, custom, it's custom position odds, 15 plus 10, then from this position. Who wants to play? I'm gonna play with black pieces. So who wants to play? Please let me know here in the chat. Okay, of course, parallax. Go to the live section of chess.com. So you need to click on the pawn and then click play, like I show. Okay. So here, yes. And then I can copy invite link. So this link is those of you who wants to play, you can challenge me, but make sure to play 2 moves within 1 minute. Okay. So use this link or just tell me your username. I will challenge you. So yes, you have to take. Now you have 30 seconds to make a move. Okay, rook d5. Well, did you really want to play this move? I don't think so, because it seems like you blunder a fork. Was it a mouse slip or what? Okay, this definitely provides me with some advantage. So I'm not gonna play this move. I will play something else. Something else, something like that. Of course, knight b4 was winning, but maybe it was because rook d5 was a mouse slip. So, okay, this move. Well, then it's fine if we exchange rook d8, rook d8, then I can take with my knight. So king goes closer to the place of action. And knight d5 is a terrible move. Nobody else wants to play? So my position is worse. So you guys have real chances to defeat me. Your task is just to play solidly. Well, knight exchanging the knights on f6 was a good idea, but bringing the rook to d5 was a terrible mistake. So just play a better move and you'll be winning. Bishop c4. Okay. Then I play king e7. So I'm protecting my rook. Obviously, a5 is a weakness, so at the very next move, I'm threatening to take this pawn. Yes, that's why here white has to defend it. Now what? If I take, I improve the pawn structure. I cannot take here, so it seems to me that I have to play knight b4. Yeah, let me play knight b4, and then probably rook takes rook, or the other option. Okay. Okay, finally we have two games. Yeah, capture on f6, please. Well, or do what you think is better. Yeah, this move is good. Where is my other game? Okay, rook c5. Then knight c2 makes sense, but no, it's not a problem. Rook c8 also makes sense. Now let me play knight c2. Yeah, knight c2 is good. So this move. Yeah, this is a problem. Okay, b5. Oops. Yeah, let's play a new one. Use the same link, please. Or just message me your username. I'll challenge you. So b4. Well, b4 does make sense. But then I can play knight c4 and exchange my knight for the bishop, I think. I don't have any other options. So here I take on e3. So you see the knight is trapped a little. Yeah, why do I say a little? It's trapped, actually. What should I do? Because king f2 is now a problem. So I see only f5 as a possibility to save this knight. What else can be done? Rook d2, it's still king f2, but then I escape. Can I escape? Yeah, I think I can escape king a1. No. Okay, let me do this. Okay, rook c4. Okay, it's clear. But then it can be a draw if I do this move. Yeah, but then knight g2. That was my idea. You have to play there and I can escape to f8. So, right, I cannot block with my rook because then my knight is hanging, so I have to escape. Maybe escaping, no, escaping to e6. Well, bishop c4, of course, is not playable. There is a pin, but yeah, let me play king f8. I think it's much safer. Take. Well, this game is likely to end in a draw, I thought. Interesting. So, yeah, looks like I lose more pawns than my opponent. What can I do? I can try this move. Then it's likely to be this. Then I take there. Then rook takes there and king g7. I'm a pawn down. Also, I think that king g7, rook takes a6, and rook c2 is a good idea. But my pawn structure is terrible. Well, let's play king g7. I think it's better. Okay, b4. Well, b4 doesn't look like a good idea. How do we defend against this? Well. Okay, so knight d3, king goes there. I take, king takes. No, it doesn't look good. Okay, so I can support my rook with my other rook. So now I am threatening with knight d3, so probably king f1 is a must. Yeah, king f1 is a must. But for king f1, I prepared what? I prepared this move, and then rook d2 move. And I think it's okay, because I'm threatening with a checkmate. There is rook d1 that I missed. Maybe it's not a big issue. I just exchange the rooks and pin, right? No. Then I just take the pawn on b4. I think it's better. So this is the game where I experienced some issues. Yeah, bishop c4, but okay, bishop c4, you're only threatening with a check, and I can instead play this move, after which I'm threatening with a checkmate on f2, and after this move, it's this. Yeah, it's likely to be a checkmate. Yes, king goes there. Now what? Rook g7 doesn't save the game. It's check, then check on h3. b5. Well, this move, b6, this b7, and I can stop it. This is one of the options. If this and this, I can play back. So this b6, rook takes, b7, king goes there. Yeah, should be fine. What else? I can play this move right away. It's b6 anyway, and then I play king g6, f5. No, I like the idea of doing rook e2. I think I have time for it. Well, here I think the position is already winning. Because there is no defense against knight h3. So rook f2, king g1, knight h3. Guys, if more of you would join this simul, you would have better chances to defeat me, because when I play a lot of games, I'm likely to make a mistake. Okay, so I have actually blunders. Interesting. Where is my blunder? Okay, fine. So where is my blunder? Rook d2. f5 was a better move. Win the material. With this move. No, with which move? Okay, show me, please. King f2, but wait a sec. Knight g2, how do they win the material? You mean they should take the pawn on b7? No. With this, but then I save it and they can only take this pawn. Yes, I saw that. That's not a surprise for me. I saw that. Okay, fine. So we have one game left, b6. So I take here. b7, rook goes to b3. So I can capture one more pawn. Let me do it. And then I play what? Why do I? Okay, so yeah, sorry guys, something happened to me. I saw that I can stop the pawn. No, of course I cannot. Let's resign here. Yes, of course. So I didn't need to capture this pawn. It's actually a draw when my rook is behind. I play this move. So rook b8, then I can play f5, then what? Maybe b7. Then my task is just to keep the king here or there. It's, well, for example, f4 once again. Actually, no, not f4, but this move. The king is cut off, so it's a complete draw. So, okay, so, but yeah, I made a mistake. So, of course, it's too late. It's too late to capture this pawn. Okay, fine. So we are not going to analyze these games. I don't think they were played well by you. Well, that was a good idea, but let's go back to our original game, and I will demonstrate how exactly Mikhail Botvinnik converted his advantage. So yeah, knight f6, g takes f6, and rook d7 was good. So rook a b8 was played because knight takes a5. The move I played means rook c7. Then I played b5 here to play knight c4, but actually it is a mistake because bishop f7 can be played. So this move, and with bishop e6, you are completely winning. So rook a b8 is a must to not open the position. King f2, and well, then if rook d1, it's rook d8 and the exchange of the rooks, which is not favorable, which is actually playable for black. Yes. So knight a5 was played instead. Rook c7, rook bc7. I don't know why he took with the rook, but he definitely should take with the bishop. Why? Well, if the king goes to g7, it becomes the object of the attack, and actually it is a checkmate with two rooks. The king should go to h8, and then it should be a winning position. You can take once, you can bring the king into the enemy territory. Why not? Well, actually, something similar happened. So rook f7, rook takes, it's a check, king goes back, bishop d5. This was played in order to fix the position of the knight, but b5. And now, if my opponent let me play knight c4, here Botvinnik didn't. He played b3. Well, b3 with the bishop on a2 doesn't make sense, but with the bishop on d5, it's really good. Now, so now what? Rook d8, king g3, and the king enters the enemy side. So here f5 is not a blunder. So king h4, this, taking with the pawn. Rook is d6 stops the king. King h5 anyway. And then they played some moves. Here the king should come to f5. So here king f5 is the main move, and the position is completely winning. The pawn dies. And because of that, and because of the enemy king being already into the black territory, white is winning. They played rook c7, some slow moves. So then this move, it was possible to claim a draw after that, but he didn't. He played rook f6 and the game continued. So there was a three-fold repetition. Bishop f6, rook f6, bishop g6. He wants to take this pawn. But then the knight goes to b3. Okay, so here, instead of playing solid chess in that endgame, Botvinnik decided to deliver a checkmate. So, for example, king g8, it's king g5, and the h-pawn goes forward. But in the game, it was played rook f8, and how would you continue in this position? Who can tell me? Yeah, thanks, Liliana. Yes, that's right. It's a check here. King goes there, another check. And after bishop f7, they have to sacrifice the exchange because rook h7 is a checkmate. So they sacrifice it, and then the position is completely winning. This is where black resigned. So why? Because threatening with a mate and threatening to take the knight. So this is how the game ended. Actually, I didn't like the way how Botvinnik played the endgame. So these moves are very useless. b3 was very solid, but here he definitely need to bring the king to f5 and take this pawn. So this is what he didn't do. But the rest of the game is fine. And I actually want you to pay attention to this moment of the game where you see that the queen cements the position. That's why getting rid of this queen, even at the cost of double pawns, provides white with enough advantage. Fine, guys. So I also prepared some homework for you. Let me share. So it's here in the chat. I'm also going to send an email. So this is the homework. Well, first in this endgame, I want you to find the best move. Well, not the best move, but the plan for white. So how white can improve their position? It's the endgame with the bishops of opposite colors. So it means that once you exchange rooks, the game is likely to end in a draw. So do not exchange the rooks. And in the second position, the question is whether it's a good idea to take on g4 and exchange the bishops or not. Is this pawn in game winning? And if yes, then suggest a plan. If not, then what would you play? Maybe c6 actually, or king e3. So this is the homework for you. Let me close it. So what else? Okay, yes, fine. What else? Just a reminder that if you want to support my webinars, there is a link. So I'll copy it and paste in the chat again. It works. It works simply. So you have to just click donate button, then enter the amount you want to donate and click PayPal and send the donation through PayPal. If you like my webinars, if you, well, I would definitely appreciate your help, and that would be helpful for me too. Okay. So what else? What else? So this is my profile. You can send me a friend request. Chat. And also, if you have any questions, please message me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. You can also suggest topics for the next webinars. For example, how to play solid chess was suggested by one of our participants. So that was actually all I wanted to share for you today. Let's just repeat the basics. So just some basics about solid chess. So first of all, solid chess style means slow positional play, which is opposite to combinational playing style. And what you should do in order to obtain advantage and do not provide your opponent with a counterplay. So you should make positional exchanges, which improves your position from a strategic point of view. For example, like exchanging queens in this concrete game. You should attack pawn weaknesses. You should fix them and then attack. You should grab space and pressure weak squares into the enemy territory, as well as limit the opportunities of your opponent. So limit his counterplay. Also, it makes sense to play solidly when your position is worse. And instead of looking for tactics, you'd better first, by long-term maneuvering, improve your position, and only then look for a counterplay. So even if you if you don't know how to play in the game, just play solid and waiting move. The move that doesn't provide your opponent with a counterplay, the move that keeps everything defended and doesn't really play a significant role for your position. But you play this move in order to either find a better moment to search for a plan or provoke your opponent to make a mistake, because well, your opponent may make a waiting move too, but very often he's unlikely to do it, but instead he initiates some counterplay, which very often is unsound. Okay, fine. So thank you guys for coming. I hope to see everyone next Sunday, same time. Well, you are welcome, and I was really glad to conduct this webinar. If there are no questions, then we finish for today, and see you next Sunday.